Hi, friends. Thanks for tuning in to the Mental Fitness Unscripted podcast, where our conversation will encourage your healthy living journey. Inspired by our Team Quadzilla coaching motto, healthy living starts between your ears, we talk about mental fitness in ways that challenge us to think about our thinking regarding topics like habits, leadership, exercise, values, marriage, parenting, and faith. Our hope with this podcast is to sharpen you as we sharpen ourselves to be all we were made to be. So let's dive right into the conversation on this episode of Mental Fitness Unscripted.
Hi, Chad.
Hello, good morning.
Great to be together again.
Yeah, it's hoodie day.
Hoodie day. We ought to have them up, huh? No, I'm just there's some days that's nice.
Yes.
There's some days that's nice. Well, how's your week been?
Yeah, no complaints really. You know, it's managing the hamster wheel, I think, a little bit.
Oh, man, there's so much to keep up on, isn't there?
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. I
Makes
think
life
it
exciting.
the busyness we kind of all whine and complain about makes me think about a word or an idea maybe we could talk about today, and that's procrastination.
Well, let's put that off until another week.
And I know it's so hard to talk about something that challenges us. So I love the idea of putting it off.
Okay, I just had a weird thought. It's so funny. None of us likes procrastination, but boy, we sure like it. You know, we say we don't like it, but man, we
I
just
know.
embrace it, and it's like anyway. Then I just
I
thought that
know that
kind of a
that's
paradoxical thought there.
absolutely it is. I just it's something that we all acknowledge and recognize, and we kind of laugh and joke about. But it's also, I mean, it's a serious mental fitness idea, and if we're going to march around and complain that we're, trying to be our best and grow and change and be better, I think procrastination can be an obstacle there and get in the way of that.
Okay, you just hit me with something I read earlier this week. Well, you reminded me of it. I'm trying to. I've got to get this right. You said mental fitness, and what was it? I've got to get it right here. I actually wrote about it in my journal, but the way this guy put it, he said mental toughness can only happen if there's challenge in your emotions. And we spend so much time trying to get rid of our emotions.
Mm.
And mental toughness can't happen. It's like trying to work out and get strong without weights, or to work out and get strong without gravity of the weights. Gravity pulling
Yeah.
the weights. It's that resistance. And my thought that I wrote down in my journal is the courage doesn't happen unless fear's in place. There has to be an element of
Yeah.
fear for courage to operate. And I'd never thought of mental toughness. I have to admit, I've always thought it was just kind of a place I could be, just this state of being. Man, I'm mentally tough. I'm here.
Yeah.
But here again, it's back to progress, or not progress, but the process of life.
Mm.
And I have to iterate my mental fitness.
Mm.
It's like my physical fitness. I can't be strong once and just remain strong.
Yeah.
It's that process. And I don't know why, but I just never put it in that place that I have to have opposition. I have to have challenge to have mental toughness or mental fitness
Wow.
or
Yeah, and I like what you said about the emotional part of that because I that struck me. It's in fact I wrote about that just this morning, how uncomfortable it is to express emotions, even if I'm doing it for myself, or even the way I was referring to it this morning in my journal is with the Lord, in that I feel like sometimes I'm guarding this interaction with the Lord from my deepest and rawest emotions because I'm embarrassed by it or ashamed by it or something. And so I try to temper that with, you know, just I don't know how to explain what I mean here. I'll just use, regular words to say, well, gee whiz, I'm really having a hard time today, instead of, really letting those emotions come out. And I think there's some real health to be had in doing so, in letting these emotions out. And we're just not very good at that. And to your point about it being an essential part of how we can be mentally tough or mentally fit, that opposition needs to be in play. And so I'm probably sacrificing some of my own mental fitness by not learning how to kind of express some of those difficult emotions. I don't know. Does that make any sense? Or
well, it makes total sense. And if you just compare that to your physical fitness, I can buy weights and I can put them on the weight rack, and I can do that.
mm,
But it's until I pick up those weights and have that resistance and start that movement
yeah,
that I can really exercise that. And I think
yeah,
sometimes, and since I've read that, I'm really cognizant. Isn't it funny that we develop this consciousness of things we know but we don't know, and then we become conscious of it, and it's like, oh yeah, man, I got to pay better attention to this. But that's kind of where I'm at with this. Okay, I think sometimes we treat our mental state of being. Um, I think we want to ignore the weights and avoid them.
mm, yeah,
And we work so hard. Oh, I've got to reduce stress in my life. Well, why?
mm,
Okay, maybe I need to change the stress. But how do
mm,
it's like trying to save time. How do you save time?
yeah, exactly.
Is there a time bank?
Right. That's not how it works.
Can I put it in my mattress or
Yeah.
it just operates, and I think that's the issue with challenges, and so pick your stress. I mean, you can stress over not wanting to stress over stressful things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
this is where we get all mixed up for sure. It's literal mental gymnastics, and
so
it gets us nowhere.
and I didn't mean to derail us here. You wanted to talk about procrastination, but you know what? I really think this fits that, is
Yeah,
because
it does.
procrastination is trying to avoid the stress of the stressful thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Or the similar idea that, it's commonly said something about our good intentions. Our good intentions don't get us anywhere. In fact, they probably take us places we don't really want to go, because we can do all of the mental gymnastics and the thinking and the studying and the whatever, but it's not until we're actually taking some kind of action or stepping forward, or taking a risk or a challenge in facing that anything really happens or changes. So I mean, this is all very much about procrastination, for sure.
And it really comes down to emotions. I, I we make
Hmm.
decisions emotionally. I don't.
Absolutely,
Even
yes.
Spock made decisions emotionally. Mr. No Emotion.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. He can't avoid it even himself, so
No,
that's for sure.
it's just impossible. Okay. But what's funny is we can justify and rationalize our decision logically. And that's what we look
Hmm.
for as validation of those things. And
Right.
sometimes we have to pre-validate it to get going because those emotions come in. It's like picking up those weights in the gym. I,
Yeah.
but who was it? Oh, it was Muhammad Ali. Somebody asked him, and I'm paraphrasing this really badly, but there was a reporter that asked Muhammad Ali how he, did it. What, what was the question? How do you get up early? Basically, it was how do you get up early and do what you do? Practice what you
Mm.
practice. And he said, and it sounds like you like that kind of thing. And Muhammad Ali responded, and here again, I'm paraphrasing really badly, but he said, I don't like it. I'm like everybody else. I don't like it. But what I do like is I like being the best I can be.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay. And that's what I mean by, he kind of got out in front of the emotion and said, okay, this emotion is going to happen, but I choose this other emotion. And I guess that's
Mm.
back to where choose your stress. You can
Yeah.
stress over not wanting to get up early and exercise, like most of us do. Or you can be like Muhammad Ali and say, you know what? I I like the emotion of being on top of my game much more than I like the emotion of staying in my bed to avoid working out.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's good.
pick your pain or pick your stress or
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's
Is this leading where you want to go?
it is. It is. This is really helpful. I want us to think also about uh, consequences. So oftentimes we will rationalize our procrastination in that there's more time, you know, there's tomorrow, or later, or soon, or these kind of things, and that's what procrastination does to us. But there's there's also an element of consequence that we might not be very aware of when we're making these decisions to procrastinate. And here again, I'm preaching to myself 100%. But I have a note here that says, and this is from church recently, it says that the small issues that are not addressed will become larger issues. And so, in terms of procrastination,
Left
if
alone, they
I'm
will.
not addressing the thing now, it's not going to go away. It's likely going to grow and compound and become a larger, bigger thing later. So, like Muhammad Ali would say, I got to nip this in the bud. I got to stay in front of it, or it's going to become a bigger thing that's harder to deal with later. And that's a consequence of procrastination that we overlook in the moment because soon sounds comfortable.
Yeah. There's a Latin phrase. It's called memento mori. I don't know if I brought that up before here.
Mm-mm.
Memento mori. What it means is remember that you're mortal.
Oh, okay.
The other translation for it is remember that you will die. Okay. And
Yeah.
your point is that we put things off thinking that we have this great repository of time.
Yeah.
I,
Oh, yeah.
I've got all the time in the world to get this done. Okay. How old are you?
I just turned 50 this year.
Congratulations. So, 50 years old. Uh, This is funny because just this morning my wife and I were talking about this, and I said, there's a calendar that you can buy, and I'm going to give you the answer here before I tell you about the calendar, but remind me of the calendar. Okay, according to the, I really have been doing something here. I look like I'm looking for inspiration, and I probably what I did what I did was I brought up the life expectancy table from the Social Security Administration. Chad,
Oh boy.
you have 1,600 more weeks to live.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So when most of us are born, let me do the math here real quick. Sorry. When we're born, we have 4,108 weeks of life expectancy.
Mm.
Okay, so 4,000 sounds like a lot, right?
4,000 weeks. Yeah, and I'm already down to 1,600.
Sorry, 2,600. I did it wrong. So you're down to
Oh,
2,600. Okay.
okay. 2,600. All
So
right.
you had 4,100 weeks to live, and now you're down to 2,600 weeks. How do you feel about all those weeks that you've used?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure there's a few of them that were entirely wasted.
And I'm preaching to me again. Here, I
Yeah.
love this form because this is really good for me to voice. And it's like, okay, Todd,
Yep.
drink your own Kool-Aid here, physician heal thyself here, but however you want to put it. But I've got way less weeks than that to live. But this calendar that I showed my wife this morning, it has I can't remember, it's 4,000 something. Anyway, it's right at 4,000 little dots. And what you do is
Mm.
it's like a scratch and sniff thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
you take off a week, and then this picture starts to appear behind it.
Mm.
Okay, and anyway, it shows you very graphically. So it's kind of a poster sized calendar, and you just scratch off each week that you have lived. So, when you receive this, you would have to scratch off, I don't know how many, almost 1,800
Sure. Yeah.
dots. And then every week you just scratch off a new dot.
Hmm.
Okay. Kind of a morbid, which is funny because, it's mortality. It really is. You're gonna die.
Yeah.
Of those 2,600 weeks that you have left, Chad, how many are guaranteed?
Yeah. Well, that's the next part of procrastination that I was hoping we would get to, and you're headed right down the path. So this is fantastic.
Well, it's funny that my wife and I were talking about that calendar this morning. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reality is the extra danger to our procrastination is that we truly don't have any control whatsoever over our days remaining. It was today the last day that I woke up. I don't know. Can you know that for sure? Not a chance. We're not in charge of that. And so, in a sense, it's oh, what is the word I'm looking for? It's pretty arrogant of us to just assume that we can do the thing that we're supposed to do, or even the thing that we would like to do later. And I don't mean to get, become a real Nazi about such a thing that seize the day means that you've got to do everything right now. That's also not how it works. But I think it's worth thinking about our thinking in terms of this idea that we aren't guaranteed tomorrow. And what are we doing with today? in being intentional and purposeful about how we're spending our time, money, and energy. I mean, that's really the root, I think, of where I'm headed with procrastination and preaching to myself is, gee whiz, how much time do we waste? Being entertained, for example. We had this conversation with my family just the other day because we've been to the movies a few times and we're being entertained. And being entertained is great. It's fun and nice and whatever, but for all the ways that we try to entertain ourselves, what could we do instead of that would be more fulfilling and productive than just being entertained? And I was like, wow, that's pretty heavy to think about.
Yeah, what about a nice game together as a family, or maybe a bicycle ride or a walk?
Yeah.
Just go out on the patio and sit and watch a fire, or
Mm.
you know, yeah, no, absolutely. And for me, it really comes down to this consciousness of asking the question, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Right.
It's so easy to just default
Yes.
to, it's just so easy to default to something that will entertain me. Okay. Whether it's a game or a YouTube video, or doom scrolling in
Yeah.
Facebook, or
It's awful.
yeah, I and I guess it comes down to me. It's that it's becoming conscious and cognizant of, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I'm really talking to myself here. We have that opportunity to just take that pause, take a breath.
Hmm.
Okay, we're going to watch TV. Why? You know, why am I going to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, to what end? Or whatever question you want to put to that. I don't have any problem with watching a movie,
Right.
but why not consciously do that? Okay, and the mind is fun. If we thought about everything that we have to do, I mean, all these little movements I'm making with my hands are calculated, and there are, you know, um, nerve impulses, and my brain's having to make those calculations. But what's funny is I can do that without even thinking about it.
Right.
You think, here I am doing this, and I'm talking, and so the brain is good that way. And a good example of that is driving. Okay, the first time you drove a car, was it just as easy and effortless as it is now for you?
No, your brain is working overtime and
Right.
you're
Okay.
spending a lot of energy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got to adjust the wheel. Well, and I've got to stay on this. If you want an exercise sometime, just count how many times you move the steering wheel, even slightly.
Mm.
Count all the times that you move the steering wheel to turn or to just stay straight on a trip from your house to the grocery store. Just count the number of times if you want to be
Mm.
conscious of something. But what's
Yeah.
funny is we get so used to that function of driving that, I don't know if you've ever had this, and maybe I shouldn't admit this on film, but there are times I'll drive through a stoplight because I'm so busy thinking of something else that I have to
Yeah.
look in the rearview mirror and look, was it green?
Mm. Yeah.
I don't know if you've
Or
had that happen, or
yeah, or you'll get to a place that you've driven 1,000 times and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm here. How did I even get here?
yeah, yeah,
Because it's kind of automatic.
exactly. Okay. And that's okay, because if, for you and me to walk up the stairs and go to our bedroom, or to retrieve something or whatever, think of all the calculations and so forth that have to be done and
Yeah.
decided. But what our brain does is it learns those things, and I think that's what happens, is it's a learned response that, oh, I'm bored.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, it's not good for me to be bored for 1 second, so I must fill this with something
Right.
else.
Okay.
What is the most convenient in front of me thing I can do to occupy that?
Right. And what's funny is we're so afraid to be bored, but what a great mental fitness exercise to just
Mm,
go out and be bored for, 10
yeah.
minutes. Just try it. Okay, your phone's yelling at you. It's like just ignore it
Yeah,
for 10 minutes, okay?
right.
Stare at the wall or whatever. But what a great mental fitness exercise that what I am not tied to this thing to keep me occupied.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think what we would find is in such moments, we would recognize where we're procrastinating,
Mm-hmm.
and we might even find a path through that.
Yeah.
And the courage and energy and motivation to be like, all right, now that I've had my pause, I'm going to tackle this thing because I'm done procrastinating. So, how about that for a dichotomy? Being bored for a minute in order to overcome your procrastination.
Mental
That's like,
fitness. Okay. Why do I lift weights? Well, it's so I can do X. Okay. Or I can stay young, or I can,
yeah,
it's just that exercise, that mental fitness. It's like
mm,
study. We go through school and what we do is we cram, but what's funny is we don't remember any of that. But things that are important to us, man, we'll
yeah,
dig deep. We'll, we'll just,
yep,
we'll learn and learn and learn. And what a great thing. So find things that you're interested in. And I'm not against phones and internet. I'm not.
hmm,
They have their place, but make sure that it's in their place.
yeah,
Who's controlling who? And we've had this.
yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, and we've had this discussion before. It's act. Make a decision and act for yourself, or you
Mm,
be acted upon. My phone,
yes.
my phone just rang while we're recording this, and guess what I did? My attention just went immediately to, oh,
Mm,
okay. Now, did I have the urge to pick up the phone and answer it? No. I want to be totally engaged in this. In
yeah.
fact, I was embarrassed that I interrupted our videotaping. But anyway, it's funny. We get those prompts, ding, oh, wonder who,
Hmm.
you know, bleep, oh, wonder who's this
Yep.
from, you know. Anyway, here again, there's nothing wrong with it, but make it a choice rather than a response.
Yeah. I think you've nailed just through our natural conversation that one of our greatest instruments of procrastination is the phone.
But we
That's
can,
where we turn to, in a moment of, um, for me, I've recognized in a moment of fear, like I don't really want to do this because I'm afraid of something. So I'll just be busy with my phone and then I don't have to do that. And then the time will pass and now I can't or whatever. So this is how I gymnastics myself through the procrastination. But the phone becomes that instrument. And so to your point, we just need to make ourselves mentally aware that this is what's happening and then to be able to choose against that because um, we're not going to be the people that we want to be or accomplish the things that we want to do by constantly procrastinating and having our attention distracted by silliness like whatever's on our phone.
yeah.
That's my sermon for myself in this idea with the procrastination. It's linked very much to the phone, but also in just the idea of being aware that procrastination is happening and that there's consequences to that. And that's for me to choose through.
And distractions are going to happen. I mean, we live in
Yeah.
a world of distractions, and what we've got to do is we've just got to make a decision. I mean, we're coming full circle again. You've just got to be conscious of the decision you're making.
Yeah.
And what do I want out of life? Um, I'll give you a great example. I am very distracted right now. I discovered I'm a watch snob. I love
Oh, okay.
I love watches. Okay, you know, if I had googads of money, I would buy all kinds of really expensive watches.
Okay.
Okay, I discovered the other day, about I don't know, 3, 4 weeks ago, that you can build your own watch.
Oh no.
Okay,
That's a project.
I can replicate. I can replicate within a very close margin a Rolex watch. I mean, it'll even look like one. I
Really?
I can fake you out with it, and
Nice.
I can do it for about $300
No kidding.
instead of 5,000 or
Yeah.
15,000 or yeah,
Huh.
yeah. I
So that this is like a kit you can buy, or how does that
No,
work?
you buy pieces. It is anyway. I have been so distracted by this that I'm doing my work and I'm thinking, oh man, I could build that watch, or
Yeah.
wow, I could build that watch. And how do they do the? You know, I can actually do my own watch. I can pull pieces together and
Yeah.
build my own custom watch, and even have somebody build me a little logo that will go on the watch face for my logo.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
And I can do that for about $100
Yeah. All
and
right.
have it be a very high end self-winding, you know, not a core. A quartz
Yeah.
watch I can do for even cheaper and make it look really good. Okay. But
Huh.
a self-winding automatic watch I can do for about
Dang.
$100. So intrigued. So
I'll put
intrigued.
my order in for one. You can make me one too.
Well, but see, that gives you a possibility because you can go out and look and, well, I like this about that watch, and I like this about this watch, and I would like to have it this color, and I'd like to have the hands look like this. And you can
Mm.
customize your own watch. Call me up and say, Todd, I want this. And okay, pull the parts together and probably build it in about, I don't know, probably a couple of hours.
No kidding. Well, you're on the cusp of a yet another business
No,
adventure.
no, 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 I do not want to do this for a business.
uh,
But I like I say, it's a real interest of mine. But you think, I mean, a Rolex, I can replicate a Rolex
mm,
that's $15,000 right now,
yeah.
and I can do it for about, I don't know, 350 to $500 depending on the pieces I put together, and
Good grief.
it will be within a small margin of what that watch
Huh.
is a watch.
Interesting.
Well,
Well, hey,
I,
sometimes the distractions can be worthwhile,
well,
and
no, I'm doing my work, and it's like, oh man, I could do that watch. Let's. And so I'll
okay,
jump.
or they can run you down the rabbit hole and get you lost and create
Yeah,
problems for
really
sure.
easy. In fact, I'm going to share my screen here. I'll just show you. I took a half hour and designed 4 watches yesterday, which is really stupid. Really, really
Oh
stupid.
my gosh.
Okay, so here's a watch I want to replicate. Okay, and here's all the pieces
Mhm.
for it.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, here's another one I want to replicate, and um, it's actually two. I want to do one of each of these, but here's the parts.
Wow. No kidding.
And then I started to put that. I don't have a picture of it yet, but I've started to put pieces together for another watch. And then, oh wait, well I can do this one too. And I started to, so anyway,
Good grief.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. More proof that you can find anything
Oh,
online.
I didn't even need my phone to
Yeah.
didn't even need my phone for that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, so I have a parting shot for the topic today.
Oh, don't hit me, Herd.
And that's a line that we've probably heard before, and it says, we make our decisions, but then our decisions make us. And so that's something that I want to keep in mind when I'm fighting procrastination, is that is a decision, and that I'm choosing it, in that it's going to have a consequence. All decisions have a consequence.
Absolutely.
And that's a hard reality and a hard truth that I want to be mindful of to sharpen my mental fitness.
So me resisting building watches improves me, right?
Well, maybe it's just part of planning. You do your work first, and then you can play, and that can be your free time activity.
This is my reward.
That's a lot better than doom scrolling.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I actually enjoy working with my hands. I like carpentry and all metal work, and
Yeah.
so this is kind of a
Huh.
I don't know. Anyway,
It's the opposite of heavy timbers for obstacle course
exactly,
things, right?
exactly.
Now you're working with very small things.
I can lift these pretty well.
Yeah.
Which is funny because in 15 minutes I've got to go load a trailer for our event tomorrow, so I'm going to be lifting a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
I like your parting shot. It just I'm just going to underscore it with this: what we think about comes about, and
Mm-hmm.
emotions drive what we think about. And so, if you want to
Yes.
be really careful about how you want the outcome to be, manage your emotions. They won't go away. Stop trying to make them go away.
Mm-hmm.
Learn to manage them. Okay, be a leader of
Yeah.
your emotions. So
Oh,
I love what you've challenged us in
yeah.
here. Just
No, this is good.
remember those decisions make us,
Yeah.
but our emotions, you know, our emotions drive what we think about, and what we think about
Yes.
is what we decide about. So, manage those emotions.
Cool.
I'm going to write that down. Be a leader of your emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
I like that. All right, you got 1 minute. Anything else?
No, that's it. That's it. I've exhausted what I can say about the topic.
Well, please have a great weekend and have a great week. And
Yeah.
let's let's go out and manage our emotions and our thinking. And I love
Right.
what you left us with, that challenge. Let your decisions make you.
Okay. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.